Breaking now at 6 as a federal judge issues a final ruling, one that keeps National Guard troops out of Portland.
Then, relief for families who finally received SNAP benefits.
It was like tippy a bit. I ran straight to the corner store just to get a couple things to eat and then came back.
I'm Devin Haskins here at Portland International Airport. PDX, one of 40 across the nation that are experiencing reductions in flights, how it's impacting travelers.
Plus, how tech is helping a mom who escaped a fire even though she's deaf finally feel safe in her own home.
I never had this before in my life, and I need it for a long time.
And later, the quick thinking that saved a shark stranded in shallow water on the Oregon coast.
This poor guy was just in distress. I could just tell he still had life to live.
But first to that breaking news and a big decision from a federal judge that permanently blocks the Trump administration, at least under the current conditions, from deploying National Guard troops to the Rose City.
Let's get right to our Kyle Aboshi with more on the ruling and what it all means. Kyle.
This is a major setback for the Trump administration. Within the past hour, a federal judge issued a permanent injunction barring troop deployment to Portland. The federal government will almost certainly appeal. It made it clear the ruling doesn't stop the president from ever deploying the National Guard. But in this case, it wasn't lawful. She wrote, quote, "The evidence demonstrates that these deployments, which were objected to by Oregon's governor and not requested by the federal officials in charge of protection of the ICE building, exceeded the president's authority," end quote. The final order comes after a 3-day trial that ended last week. The state of Oregon, California, and city of Portland sued the Trump administration, arguing the president exceeded his authority. The federal government claimed the president has the right to deploy federalized troops. In the end, the judge ruled the president didn't meet the 2 criteria he needed to mobilize troops. There was no rebellion, and the feds could still do their job. Since late September, Judge Immerget, a Trump appointee, has repeatedly sided with the state of Oregon's challenge over troop deployment by issuing 2 restraining orders and a preliminary injunction. Her final decision ends the debate at the district court level, blocking troop deployment to Portland. But again, it will likely be challenged on appeal in the coming months.
6 weeks under all this uncertainty. Kyle, appreciate all the work you've done on this, and on to the next chapter, I guess, so to speak. Thanks, Kyle.
Meantime, the government shutdown is affecting Americans in more ways than one, from travel headaches at airports to delayed SNAP benefits.
We have live team coverage tonight with Devin Haskins at PDX and John Adams covering SNAP. John, let's start with you. It sounds like Oregon Trail cards are finally getting topped up, even as the Trump administration asks the U.S. Supreme Court to step in and stop that.
David, that's exactly right. SNAP recipients in Oregon started seeing their November benefits being delivered last night. The acting director of the Oregon Department of Human Services said the state moved quickly after a judge yesterday ordered the Trump administration to fully fund November benefits by today. The state dispersed the benefits to over 700,000 Oregonians. The Trump administration is now appealing the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. But Oregon DHS says money already on SNAP cards can't be clawed back by the federal government. We spoke with a Multnomah County mother of 3 who says the lapse in benefits has caused her lots of anxiety.
When I looked, it was the full amount, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's there!" It was like tippy a bit. I ran straight to the corner store just to get a couple things to eat, and then came back.
Well, the governor's office says if you haven't received your SNAP payment for November, call 800-699-9075. We'll have that number in our article on KGW.com as well. David?
All right, and no clawbacks, at least according to the state. Thanks, John. Well, speaking of the shutdown, at least 1,000 flights were canceled nationwide today after the FAA ordered airlines to slash their schedules because of a shortage of air traffic controllers.
And now Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says those cuts could affect as much as 20% of scheduled flights. Devin Haskins has been at PDX all day long. Devin, how are things right now?
Things are going pretty good right now. I mean, just even behind me, it's pretty empty right now, and it's been that way for the hours that we've been here this morning. There was a little bit busier of a time, as mornings usually are busier, but today at PDX, the 12 flights have been canceled. That's a combination of both arrivals and departures. And looking at tomorrow, the same kind of number, around 11 flights canceled so far. Portland International Airport, one of 40 airports across the country impacted by a reduction in service. Starting Friday, the FAA has ordered airlines to cut back 4% of flights, ramping up to 10% within a week. Airlines like Alaska, which is the largest provider at PDX, will decide which flights to cancel.
I've been watching it since yesterday just to make sure that I wasn't going to get canceled so I could get a flight home.
He's one of the many flyers we talked with, happy theirs wasn't on the chopping block.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that my flight is still on for today and on time.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says cutting back on flights is about keeping people safe as air traffic controllers are pushed to work without pay, plus ongoing staffing shortages.
You can do that for a couple weeks, but at one point you're going to get burned out. You're going to get burned out. And that's what we're seeing now.
Over the next several days, the amount of flights canceled will grow until it reaches that 10% mark.
There's a higher level of fatigue with the controllers because they've been doing this for a long time as we've tried to mitigate the impact of the shutdown.
Richard Kennington is a former FAA air traffic controller at PDX. He also worked during the previous shutdown that lasted 35 days.
It is very real, the struggles that the controllers have to go through as they focus on their work. It's fun work, but it's challenging. It requires ultimate focus. And we don't need the distraction of the not getting paid. How are we going to manage and juggle this and that?
Meanwhile, back at PDX, as travelers navigated the concourse, trying to get around their own stressful traveling situations.
We decided yesterday to come in today because we heard that they were short-staffed and little anxiety for long lines and things today.
In probably the most Portland way, Benny, a therapy llama, was there to help travelers in his own unique way.
Llamas are very unique animals, so they're tall and they accept nice, strong hugs and are just unique, bring a lot of smiles to people.
The reduction in flights will only impact domestic flights. International flights, the Transportation Secretary says, will not be impacted. Back to you.
In it for the long haul. I feel like we could all use a therapy llama right about now. Devin Haskins at PDX. Thanks, Devin.
In your headlines, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office has just suspended the search for a hunter missing in the Mount Hood National Forest. Devin Dobick left on a hunting trip last Thursday but never returned home. Over the last week, volunteers searched more than 4,000 hours in the area where Dobick's truck was found. But the effort to find Dobick is not over. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office wants anyone with information to contact them.
A judge has ordered a man convicted of reckless driving to serve 10 days in jail for violating his probation by, once again, driving recklessly. In September, a judge sentenced Oscar Burrell to a 1.5-year probation and suspended his license. You may remember Burrell filmed himself taking joy rides around Portland, including out the window on freeways and posting them on social media. In response to his new antics, the judge also added new conditions forbidding Burrell from posting any videos online.
Today, Oregon confirmed there will be a $1.4 billion kicker tax rebate in 2026. Only those who filed 2024 and 2025 returns will be eligible. The kicker, which can be triggered no more than every other year, happens when the state's revenue is at least 2% higher than what economists predicted at the start of the budget cycle. Visit the What's My Kicker section on Oregon.gov to calculate how much you'll get back.
Washington's AG is taking on the feds over emergency alerts on your phone. Nick Brown, an attorneys general from Oregon and 17 other states, are demanding the FCC publish a rule that would send those critical emergency warnings in 13 languages other than English. The FCC actually approved the rule unanimously 10 months ago, but still has not implemented it. Brown says states plan to sue if the FCC does not act within 30 days.
Well, do you need a best friend? Because Multnomah County Animal Services might be able to help you out. The shelter wants people to adopt dogs because it's over capacity. It's taken in 86 dogs and puppies since November 1st alone, with 128 total in its care, either at the shelter or with a foster family as well. The shelter is open for adoptions all weekend long. They say if you cannot adopt at this point, maybe consider fostering as an alternative. For now, owner surrenders are being temporarily paused. You can find more information at multcopets.org. Matt?
All right, Christine, thank you very much. Hey, we're looking across The Columbia River towards Portland from our camera at the Strengths of the waterfront in Vancouver. West Hills, the TV towers, and you know what? The sky is clearing out. It's 53 degrees right now, and we're going to stay dry for the entire weekend for the first time since September. How about that, right? Now, one of the reasons we're going to see sunshine this weekend is the developing east wind. Tomorrow morning, not so much, but after that, it picks up tomorrow afternoon. You see the colors picking up here, gusts 20, 30, even 40 miles an hour at the windy places like Crown Point and Corbett. But by afternoon, we'll be getting gusts about 30 or 35 in Troutdale, maybe 30 miles an hour at the Portland airport. You see the colors begin to back off on Sunday as the east wind will diminish, but it is going to keep us clear this weekend. That's after some fog in the valleys tomorrow morning. Then it becomes mainly sunny. We should top out at about 60 on Saturday and even get a little bit warmer than that on Sunday. So clearing off tonight, the dry stretch that begins this weekend may very well last into Wednesday night or Thursday. There's one caveat to that, which I'll explain in a bit, guys.
Okay, hear from you a bit later. Thank you, Matt.
I never had this before in my life, and I need it for a long time.
That woman, who is also deaf, is talking about technology that she just received that will alert her during an emergency after she and her son narrowly escaped a fire back in September.
Celine Stevens shows us how she finally has some peace of mind.
I feel very, very blessed.
Heather Fenner and her son escaped an apartment fire in Aloha back in September. Fenner, who is deaf, had fallen asleep in the living room that night and only knew there was a fire after waking up to the smell of smoke and sight of flames. That trauma still lingers with her.
I'm worried about what will happen again if I'm in my bed. Before that started yesterday, I've been sleeping on the couch.
But now, Fenner can finally sleep in her own bed, thanks to these new devices installed by the Red Cross Wednesday.
Get out. I never had this before in my life, and I need it for a long time.
A strobe light alarm and a bed shaker meant to help the deaf and hard of hearing know when there's a fire brought tears to her eyes.
Thank you so much. I needed that. Thank you.
Her dad says these new devices come as a relief to him.
It just gives me great peace of mind to know that her and my grandson will be safe in the future if this were to happen again.
Here's how they work.
The strobe is a regular smoke alarm, right? It detects smoke in and of itself, and in addition to sounding that very piercing alarm, it will flash the strobe as a visual signal to folks who are deaf or hard of hearing.
As for the bed shaker, one part of it sits on Fenner's nightstand. When it hears the smoke alarm, its own alarm goes off, and the part that goes under her mattress starts to vibrate.
It's got a puck, a puck that's connected to this unit, which is under the mattress, and it will vibrate and alert the individual physically that there's an alarm sounding.
Fenner saying she now feels completely secure in her new home.
That way I can not have to worry about hearing it. And I can feel it. We know we'll be safe with us.
Celine Stevens, KGW News.